I break them.
All right.
Test one.
Can you hear us?
Test.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
So,
What about me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Ready for the roller coaster. Dudes to Dads is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. Hello, welcome to another exciting podcast. I'm your host, Jason Kreidman, along with
Alan Bush.
Sorry, didn't mean to talk over you.
That's all right. I'm good with that.
How are you, Alan?
Doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, and we have a wonderful guest. I was going to say special guest, but this time I'm using the term wonderful.
Got a new adjective.
That's
He
so
deserves it.
exciting.
My long-term friend, Chris. Chris, why don't you say hello to the audience?
Hello, audience. Pleasure to be here.
And so Chris is going to help us today. The topic we're going to be talking about, because I'm certainly not an expert at this one. Not that I'm an expert at a lot of topics that we discuss, but I have fun with them.
Sure.
It's getting back into the dating scene as a dad after maybe you've gone through a divorce.
Sure.
Or separate,
or a loss or
something.
Yeah.
You no longer
divorce.
have the significant other,
Yeah.
and you are getting back into the dating scene. And so, Chris, like I said, Chris and I have been friends for a long time. So
That's cool. You have friends that have lasted that
long
long.
time.
Yeah,
I have a friend
it's
named Chris,
amazing.
funny enough, that
really?
I've known since I was like in 8th grade.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We're
Yeah,
elementary school.
I'm not 8th grade, sorry.
Yeah.
And so,
you were 8
our
years
friend
old, actually.
Kevin was another guest.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So,
So I have like a 30 years history, same type of thing. It's
Yeah.
like it's amazing to have that. So that's awesome.
No, it is
Yeah,
awesome.
cool.
So I've kind of been witness to that process that Chris has gone through, and we've talked a lot about it. And I was like, you know what, this is a great topic for a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people who go through that and are looking at like, how do I get back into the scene?
Sure.
Might make some mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
And so I think Chris has a great perspective and a good head of kind of saying, okay, here's some things that I've learned. And so I was like, you know what, why don't you share that with the community? So
I will do my best.
So first, Chris, just maybe give a little bit of background, sort of when this all went down, your children's age, and sort of maybe
How
a
long
little
were
bit
you
about
together?
yourself. Yeah.
Sure. So I was married for 13 years, together with my ex for 18. And we split roughly 4 years ago.
Okay.
So divorced just about 4 years now.
2 children, right?
2 children. I have a 10-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy.
Okay.
And they are fantastic and could not have handled this any better than,
Well, and
than
that's,
they are.
Chris often gives credit to other people, but I've watched him through this process
Yeah.
and see how he handles it. So I give him credit on air
Right.
that, the
So
way that
sweet.
the way that he deals with his kids and even his ex, it's admirable,
Yeah.
And so it's something I think it's not an easy situation to go through, and especially for the kids, and so being
Yeah.
that supportive and being there is really important. So I think so. One of the things I wanted to touch on sort of some tips of how to get back into the scene, the dating scene, if you will. And I think you had said, your experience has been primarily online dating.
Correct.
That's been
Yes.
something for you.
Yes, almost exclusively.
So you said, some people try to set up their friends or do something,
Yeah,
but
Right. And you're all useless to me. So.
well, I said, I don't have any single women friends, at least not that I know of. Yeah. And so, I haven't been much help in that capacity. So I think, one of the things we touched on, or probably maybe the first tip would be, how did you know when you were ready to get back in? I mean, let's say you get a divorce or separate, and I shouldn't say separate. I guess you probably wouldn't. Maybe you don't start dating after you separate, but let's call it a divorce.
Sure.
No, you can.
Well, you can. Yeah,
Well,
I guess if you're
maybe
done,
that's the trial.
Right.
What to do.
Right.
yeah, if you're done and you know that it's just
Right.
waiting for
Yeah.
that. How do you know that it's time to go back? You're wanting companionship, or
Sure.
you're wanting that.
Sure.
How did it work with you?
So I certainly jumped into it way too quickly.
How quickly do you remember? I mean,
Well, I know exactly what happened.
the next day? No.
Almost. We ended up deciding basically to separate. We had an 8-month kind of trial, and it just wasn't going to work. And we ultimately just decided that we were done, and we were going to file for divorce. And so we had some discussion the next couple days, and basically we both realized that we just wanted to move on. And so I had heard of this amazing online dating that was not around. And so
when you were single,
when I was
right.
single, right. When I was 19 years old, it didn't exist. Right. And so we just decided.
Did you make a profile that weekend?
So literally I went on one of the popular online dating sites.
Do you, I mean, in talking somewhat candidly, was it out of spite? Like saying,
oh, sure, there's a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, versus like, I just really want somebody or whatever. I mean, you're feeling like that. You're feeling a little lonely probably at that point.
Right. It was, there was.
But for guys, it typically doesn't sink in very, right away.
No, but I think I looked at it and just went, this is an exciting new thing that I just want to see what it's like, and I knew that we were done. And so it wasn't I'm going to mess anything up by doing this.
Right.
So why not?
Well, and I imagine that the end of a relationship, you kind of already had a feeling that was going to lead up to that at some point, so you've kind of mentally prepared yourself.
It was just a waiting game at that point, right?
Yeah,
totally. So, so basically, I jumped
right in.
I literally jumped online and created a profile,
right,
and then I didn't do much. I kind of lurked around for a week or two.
Stalking.
We'll call it
Creeper.
Lurking. Yeah. Sounds better.
Observing.
Right, yeah.
Not so much lurking.
Right. So I did that for a couple weeks. At that point, I had moved out. And so I was like, okay, this is now. Let's start communicating and talking. So ended up
going on a couple dates or?
No. So literally went on one date.
Oh,
one date, and it was amazing. It was great. It all the butterflies were there, and
really,
this is fantastic, and this is what I've been missing. We go on this date and proceed to have a great time, and a lot of comment, and just having fun, and everything's great. And the next day, end up, hey, text you, oh, this is, had a great time, all this stuff. She replies back with, yeah, I don't think we're a match. Good luck. And I just went, oh, wow. Like, this is not good. This is not what I was looking for.
And having a good time was the point of this whole thing.
Right. And I thought, I literally walked away.
That was one-sided.
Well, right. I literally walked away from it going, this is so easy. Like, no wonder everybody does it. Yeah, and then that hit me right then that not only were we really not a good match, but I wasn't ready for it.
Were you talking about your situation?
Well, sure. There was some of that, because it was so new. I mean, it was less than a month. I mean, a couple weeks, really. Yeah. And so, I'm sure it came across to her that I was fresh out of a 18-year relationship. Right. So
that's a little bit to take on as a single girl. Yeah.
Right. And so I don't blame her at all. But what it really did for me was made me realize I was not ready.
Put yourself in check a little bit.
Yeah. And that I needed to take a step back and say, look, as much fun as this might be, and ultimately ends up being, right now I'm just not ready.
Got it.
And so I took a break.
So okay, as far as knowing when you're ready,
right?
When were you then? How did you know then? Like, okay, I feel good about my situation or self. Was that it? I mean, like, you kind of look at yourself internally and you're like, okay, do I feel good? Am I ready to let love back into my life?
Right.
Or because I mean, obviously, I would think a lot of people at that time, they're doing things. I don't say men mostly, but you're doing things that you may be a little bit out of character. You're partying. I don't say partying, but you're a little bit looser in that aspect of what you normally might do,
right?
Because you're just thinking like, I got to get this all in before
before it goes away.
Yeah.
Well, the sowing the wild oats, all that stuff, right? Yeah. You just wanted to go out and have fun, and that's what I wanted to do. I just wasn't ready to do it,
right?
And part of that too was with my kids. I realized that having two young kids, my daughter was 6 at the time, my son was 3,
right?
And I realized, look, I need to step back and just make sure they're okay first, and get them settled. Obviously we had split and moved and all that. And so that was a big and important part of it for me.
Sure.
Was making sure that they were okay.
Right.
You know, and that they didn't see.
And you can't do that while you're clubbing.
It makes it tough. Right. Yeah, right.
Right.
They are, I will say they are.
I'll be back in 2 weeks, kids. Going to Ibiza.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And it was so right. That was part of it. It's, you know, part protecting the kids and making sure that they are right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and part of
So the kids were, the kids felt, you felt like they were comfortable or, I guess okay with the situation and sort of understood it, and you felt good about that, and so that for you was sort of the inside feeling of saying, okay,
Yes.
you know what, at least I can go and try this. I'm not looking for anything serious, but I want to go have some fun and meet new people and that kind of thing.
Right. So really what that led to is about 8 months later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the second tip. I think you had said about establishing really what your expectations are in the dating. So for you, it was maybe, hey, I just want to have some fun. I want to meet new people. All my friends are married. Like I don't have a lot of single friends.
Right.
Or for other people, they're like, no, I want to get back into a serious relationship. Like that's what I want. I want but it's going to vary.
It's absolutely going to vary, and you have to decide what it is that you really want out of that. Is it just to go have some fun and just let loose a little bit and meet new people and just really enjoy dating and trying different things.
Sure.
I was probably a little more towards the other end of the spectrum. I certainly wanted to go out and date and meet new people and
but you were looking for you like a relationship.
Yeah, I liked being in a relationship. I wasn't so scarred by my divorce that I couldn't get back into that.
Right.
So yeah, it was really something that I wanted.
And you didn't have a lot of drama. That's what you were saying too, is that you didn't have the drama of the divorce where a lot of situations where there's like push and pull and the kids and drama and all that. You guys were mature and respectful towards each other, and it was like, I think that probably helped
absolutely
get back into the game a little quicker.
Well, sure. Yeah, I didn't have any baggage from the divorce part of it.
Right.
Now, later on, there's things that we'll probably talk about that come up that you go, okay, I'm not looking for that again or whatever. But as far as the dating part, I was okay with if I met someone and it took off, that I was great. I was going to get into a relationship.
Okay. You weren't hiding from it or fear of it. Yeah.
No, not at all.
So and I think so that's good. I mean, establishing your expectations seems like a good tip. The third you had said is really about being upfront and honest. I mean, this is a tip no matter what you're doing in dating, but I think it lends itself a little bit more to a dad or someone with anybody with kids. I mean, that, you've got kids now, the potential partners have to be very clear on what that means.
Absolutely.
You might not be able to go date someone 50 miles away, or I think you had said relocating or something.
Well, relocating time-wise, I split 50-50 with my ex, and so there was a week at a time where I couldn't go out.
Right.
Because I was with my kids, and that was a priority, and I wasn't going to compromise that. Yeah. And so up front, it was very much, you have to let the other person know that, look, I'm available this time, to this time.
And I could see on the other side how somebody who's not as supportive, who maybe was more selfish or so, would get upset at that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not making time for me. That kind of thing. I could see that somebody might think that's not who you obviously want to end up with. You want somebody who's going to be supportive and everything else. But I could see where it's like, oh, geez, he can't go out until next Wednesday, or whatever.
This lends a question that might be for later, but do you find it easier, maybe you don't know, to date people that have been through what you've been through?
That's a good question, and I...
So that they've been divorced as well.
Yeah, or they have kids or whatever.
Okay, so I think there's certainly an understanding from both parties that, yes, there is limitations and things like that.
What about the potential for more drama, though?
But there's a huge potential for more drama, and I've been through that part, too.
Oh, gotcha.
Where there's exes involved and stuff, and it's wow. It's too much. Right. And so it's hard enough dating someone new, learning all about them and everything else, and then you throw kids into the mix as well. Oh, It can be tough. I mean, it can just be. It's hard. It's
tough for the other person too.
It is. It's very tough.
Because they're not the priority.
Sure.
And, they have to understand. I mean, my kids are the priority. That's that.
Right.
He's saying he's made that clear.
Yeah.
You're going to say that in your profile and so or whatever. Like you have a picture of yourself with 2 kids. It's like they know he has kids and they better get used to that.
Right. Yeah. And hiding that fact wouldn't have done me any good.
Yeah.
Because of, if I do find someone that...
I wonder if people do hide the fact that they have children.
I've heard some really shady stuff on this, and that's just not me. So I've never done that kind of thing. I've always been, here it is, take it or leave it. It's, I am
so
what
being,
I am.
Being upfront with, whoever, I mean, whether it is, if you're doing online dating, I would imagine you put that in your profile and you kind of say, this is what you're looking for. And, you're pretty clear about that. So the time, sounds like the time limitations.
The other big thing too was the relocation part, where,
if you met somebody that was far away,
that I wasn't going to be able to move to,
area,
San Francisco, let's just whatever, that wasn't my thing. It had to be somewhere
so you date
relatively
within a 10-mile radius, or
I
know somebody who does that.
That's a whole other topic of the online dating thing, right? But as far as
swipe left, swipe left, swipe left.
Right. Not a little different bracket there. Right? But,
it's like ridiculous.
But I think you have to. What can come of that is things can get serious really quick.
Right.
Meaning you might take a person that's single with no kids, might take 6 months of dating someone to get to that topic and say, look, are we going to move here? Are we going to, are we even going to have kids? Things like that. This is already out there. And so I think
it moves a little quicker.
It moves very quickly. And I think you need to both be on the same page with it. That's really the important part. Because if you're not...
Well, I can imagine, too, then it also depends on who you're dating as far as the age brackets. I mean, if you're a divorced dad and you're now looking to date younger women, that's going to create a different set of challenges than if you were dating women your own age or older, with...
I would imagine that goes for single people, too, though. If you're dating age brackets, but the kids thing, I guess, would
the kids dynamic has got to be different because a woman, let's say, who's in her early 20s, if that's what you were attracted to or whatever, and you're in your 30s or whatever, she's probably, I mean, she might be, but I'm guessing the majority are not ready for 2 6 and 8-year-old children
to take that on.
You are going to find that maybe, but so you probably have to balance that too. It's like as all of a sudden you're newly single and thinking, I'm going to go for a younger girl or whatever.
Yeah.
That you got to probably consider that.
Well, that goes back to your expectations in the beginning of what you're looking for. If you're looking for a 20-year-old that doesn't have a lot of responsibilities or cares, then that's great. More power to you. That was not what I was looking for, and so it was easy for me to rule that out, I guess.
Were you looking? I think your question, Alan, about somebody who's gone through it, did you look for people specifically, or did that wasn't, you were looking for personality look, whatever, you weren't necessarily looking for divorced or had kids or anything?
No, I was open, and
that's another tip.
Well, that pulse.
Do you have a pulse?
Right. It certainly helps. I think
Paulson likes to cook. Those are the two things.
My 2 main criterion.
Well, there's some others, but not suitable, right? So,
this is a family show.
Yes. So we basically, I went with the open-mindedness of saying, if she's been divorced, if she's been married, if she has kids or doesn't have kids, it's okay.
Okay.
It doesn't.
You weren't discriminating.
No, and it was really just kind of, it boiled down to the person, Now, with that comes,
Well, that's what I said. If you saying, well, you know what? If they do have kids, I already got my own kids. Do I want to blend?
So here, this is one thing that's come up quite a bit, and just because of the age range that we're in, we're
old.
Well,
we're all part of the same generation, are we?
So
we're in our 40-ish.
early, very early, but don't age too much. So that, like, let's say call it the 30 to 40-year-old range. You get some funny things in there where women are either single, never been married, no kids, and they want that today.
Right.
Right.
Yesterday.
Or you get the divorced, has 2 kids, and came out of a really bad marriage and has no desire to get back into a marriage situation
and then
right
you have
away.
everything in between.
Then you have everything in between. Right. So one of the things about being the upfront and honest is having kids again. I have 2 kids, and
I don't need 2 more.
Well, so here's the thing, and this is
so like a younger girl that wanted to have
right.
children.
So let's say the one that's never been married and would like to have kids, and that's been asked many times, and my honest answer is, it all depends on the situation with that woman.
So you would be, that is something for
It
you.
is something that I would
be
be open to if I met the one that I wanted to get married to again, and it was perfect and couldn't live without her and everything else. Then I've been honest and say I'm able, as far as I know, to have more kids. So there's no reason, if that's what you want and that's what we both decide is the best thing for everybody.
Well, that's open. I mean, that means yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you're open to that.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, talking obviously about the topic of kids, how do you know when to introduce, because that seems to me like the biggest issue. Like when I think about my children,
Right.
Or any children, it's, when do you introduce somebody, and how do you know how significant they are to say, hey, this is mom, dad's friend, or mom's friend, whatever, to do that.
So this is
because
probably
they become attached to that.
And this is probably my biggest mistake that I've made in dating, is introducing my kids too quickly to someone new, because I tend to get attached pretty quickly.
Right. And so you want your kids to meet them.
Well, I want my kids to meet them, but
because you want to judge if they like them.
Well, that's part of it too, and also if they have kids themselves, it kind of lends itself to, let's go do family bowling night kind of thing. Okay, great. So
opportunities come up.
Yeah. So that was, there's been, I'm not going to say a ton, there's been a few that they've been introduced to that I look back and go, probably should have waited a little longer than I did. And
you can say that because it didn't work out.
Well, because it didn't work out, right. Yeah. But I think also, I just, it was just, it just, the timing wasn't there, kind of thing. And they've met 2 that I have no problem that it, I wouldn't change it. It just happened,
Right.
Ultimately it didn't work out, but I wouldn't have changed it. They met that person.
Right.
Yeah.
But that seems like a hard one. So how do you know? I mean, I guess it's going to be different for everybody.
There is no right answer. It just, like I said, I'm, I guess, an eternal optimist when it comes to this kind of thing, and think it's going to work out, and we're going to, get married, and we're going to create this family thing. And unfortunately it hasn't yet. But
ladies, if you're listening, call
Smooth Chris.
Nice.
You can email us at podcast@dudestodads.com, and we'll put Chris's profile up on the site.
Right.
I am tall. I have that.
How tall are you?
He is 6'7".
6'7".
Yeah.
No wonder.
He's a big
felt
boy.
like you were a giant when you walked in. Man, this guy's
Technically,
tall.
I am.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Right. So
You like tall guys.
Yeah. Well, and that's I mean, look, this is another topic, but there's certain advantages that that I think I bring to the table with that. But having the kids in the mix is never. I'm going to say it's never cost me a relationship. Right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard of other situations, not yours, but I've heard of other friends that. In fact, I had a situation of a friend who was dating a younger girl.
Yeah.
Who she just couldn't deal with the children, and she just said, I just, it's not something I can't get into. I can't go deeper. It's not that I don't like the kids, but it's like, I just am not ready to have
assume
this,
that responsibility.
assume that responsibility.
Yeah,
you know, it is a big responsibility.
So that's how you know, though, as a single dad, that that's not the right person for you.
That's an easy one.
That's an easy one. I mean, that just is, it's not going to happen. That's okay. You move along and you know, hopefully the next one has a...
Well, I imagine there's some baseline criteria that you have saying, you know, they have to be able to get along with my kids, I have to accept them in my world.
Absolutely.
And, of course, and then, you know.
Okay, so a good example of that is certainly something that I upfront and honest about. And yes, you have to accept my kids as your own. And I understand that's difficult to do. I get that, especially as from a woman's point of view. Everything I've learned in the last 4 years is that's a lot tougher for a woman to accept than a man.
Those are her kids,
because they're not technically her kids. So it's a little bit tougher, and all the whole X dynamic, and which we're going to talk about in a second. But you know, I think the part that is tough is when you lay out these expectations and you're upfront and you're honest, and they seem like they're on the same page. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it just turns. Yeah. And it happened to me once. I was in a 9-month relationship, and you know, we were talking
That's a
about
long time.
Well,
that is.
Yeah, I mean, in 4 years.
You know?
Well, I was in a 16-month one as well. Yeah. So, you know,
wasn't that time for you?
Yeah. So it's, like I said, I'm not afraid
Was the 16 and the 9
I'm not
at the
afraid
same
of
time?
a commitment, ladies. What?
Was the 16 and the 9 at the same time? No.
Yeah. Right.
All simultaneously.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I just dropped them one by one.
Right. Yeah. And, yeah. There's.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like you just said, you're obviously not afraid of commitment. So that's.
Well, yeah. And so, right. So, but with that comes, you think things are going a certain way, and you think everybody's on the same page, and then ultimately, well, that's There's a lot there. So but then you have to end things because it's just it's not, you know, and someone gets scared that, you know, these either
too serious.
Well, it becomes real.
Yeah.
You know.
Real quick,
right? And the kids are not going anywhere. You know,
you've got to deal with that situation. That's something that you got to kind of deal with. So,
right.
And then the last item, or I should say, the thing we were talking about was a tip was, you know, the communication with your ex.
Sure.
And you know, depending on that relation, obviously, when you have children and you're co-parenting, you know, healthily? No. You have healthy co-parenting.
Sure, yeah. Grammatically correct.
You know, you are communicating. I guess is that situation of knowing, hey, you know, I am dating,
right,
or I have met someone significant. I'm going, you know, do you actually say like, I'm going to introduce them to the children, you know, the children to them, or what? How did you?
Yeah. So my ex-wife started dating fairly quickly after we had split, which I knew about, and that was fine. And then we basically sat down and said, look, as soon as this becomes serious to the point where you really think there is a future long term here, we both need to meet the other person. So she was much further along in that than I was.
Right.
And so the guy that she ended up dating and actually ultimately married.
So you guys met.
Yeah, so I said we're going to have a sit down, and
because of the got it.
Because of the kids, so I want
not like you're curious. You just wanted. I mean, it's
no. There's to be honest, there's a little curiosity, right?
No, I know, but the purpose is the children to make sure it's like, hey, this is a person who's coming into my children's lives,
right?
I want to make sure it's okay.
I want to make sure that they're on the up and up, and that I think this is the important thing from the dad's perspective is letting the other person know that you are there, you're around. You're not some absentee father that doesn't care about your kids. And, you know, I think...
But to have a respectful relationship.
But to have not only have a respectful relationship with that new person, but just kind of lay some ground rules that, look, you know, you have your role with their mom, and that's fine. I don't care about that. You do whatever you're going to do. As far as the kids go, it's kind of, for me, is a little bit off limits. You know?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like I
don't know that worked for you. I guess
I'm not saying it's perfect for everybody.
Yeah.
Because depending on how you are with your kids and how involved you are, but for me, it was certainly the situation of.
Does that just come down to trust? I mean, then after knowing somebody for a while, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, and I, to be honest with you, I trusted my ex to find someone that wasn't
Right,
going to
somebody's
hurt my kids or doing anything like that. But look, walking in and being the size that I am certainly doesn't hurt either. And so, we just kind of, we just had to sit down and said, look, I'm here. It's fine. As long as I know what you're about, then we're okay. And everything's,
and you guys have gotten along fine.
And we've gotten along fine. And it's, like I said, he knows his role and he's respectful of that. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know my role with my kids and their mom has their role. And we're both really good about doing those roles.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
So everyone's happy.
Well, there's levels of happiness, right?
Yeah, right.
Sure. But, for the most part, yes, we all get along.
Yeah.
We're not going to do, Christmas dinner together and stuff.
Right,
but
right,
the fact is you still have to set those boundaries, I think.
Yeah.
If you're an involved dad. And, and
I've heard stories like that where people have to kind of sit down with the person that they're currently dating and have a talk, or a situation actually happened.
Right.
And like the person kind of got involved and they're like, hey, look, don't put your hands on my kids. Or not so much beating them, but it's like, hey, I don't want you to be that involved.
I mean, I'll play a little bit devil's advocate, though. So here's the thing. It's like, I think if if I was to be in that situation, of course, I want to make sure they establish, like, hey, I'm the dad, of course. And, you sort of, pee on the tree or whatever you want to say to mark your territory.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, as you learn and grow and you sort of get to know the person, obviously, and if they are, quote, worthy of that, I mean, I don't know what the term would be.
Yeah.
That you do have to let them come in a little bit more, because I think it's valuable for the kids.
Oh, absolutely. And totally. And that's a good point. No, and really what
it's trust.
It's not so much that you can't talk to my kids. Right. It's, I want you to know that I'm there. Right. Yeah. And that I am parenting my kids. It would be very silly to think that while they're with their mom and stepdad, that he's not going to have some influence on them.
Of course.
I mean, that's just wrong to think.
Right.
And I'm very well aware of that part. But I think the point of really the topic was that you guys meet and you establish, make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Well, I think that also depends obviously on the relationship that you have with your ex, because if you had a situation in which you were adversarial,
totally,
you're not going to have the opportunity to sit down and there's going to be some sort of argument or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
The fact is you had a respectful relationship where you could say, hey, listen, we've got to sit down as adults and discuss this. Like, this is a real situation.
Right.
So I think that's a testament to both of you guys, to just be like, okay, let's be mature about this. Because I could see if it's adversarial,
that's a whole nother right.
You
then it's right.
You can't
then
really
do
that.
Yes, I mean, and there certainly are probably more situations like that.
Yeah, because the mom could say, even though you have 50-50 custody, she said, "Oh, he's a deadbeat. He doesn't care about his kids."
Sure.
I mean, for somebody to say something like that,
sure.
You're sort of saying, listen, that's not the case. I am involved. I mean, but that's not what you were doing. I'm just saying.
No. Right. Yeah.
So I think that those are important tips. Is to make sure it's not an easy situation, obviously.
No.
But I like I said, I think Chris, I'll commend Chris, is being mindful of these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And granted, hey, you may make mistakes along the way.
Sure.
But you are mindful that, like, hey, you know what? I've got to actually really look out for them. So this whole process, like, although it is for yourself too, you're really looking at all of a sudden, hey, I got to make sure I'm doing this right for my kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. They really are.
Which is way different when you're a single dude.
Well, sure. Yeah, right. And look, I'm going to gather that the people that are listening to this are more along the page of us of how they would want to be a father, right? Because if they're not, they really aren't going to invest in this kind of thing.
That's a good point.
So I think if you can look at it from, yes, you have to make yourself happy, but you have to really incorporate the whole situation into it.
Right.
It's going to be much better off that way for everybody.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's one to grow on.
Wow.
Pulling that back, right? So just want to say, if you like the podcast and enjoy what you're hearing, give us a shout out. Go onto iTunes, give us a review, subscribe. Also on Stitcher.
Stitcher,
And-
iTunes, and soon to be other catchers.
Podcatchers.
Podcatchers.
If you have anything to say, comments, feedback, you can email us at podcast@dudestodads.com. And then Twitter, we are at Dudes to Dads, right?
Facebook,
Facebook, Dudes to Dads.
LinkedIn,
MySpace,
My
Dudes to Dads, everything.
Yeah.
Pinterest,
Yeah.
Instagram,
Wow.
Foursquare. So anyways, thank you, Chris. I appreciate you
Yeah, that was really good.
coming down.
I
and-
appreciate opening up like
Yeah,
that.
thank you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
I had a good time.
So with that, we covered a lot of ground here tonight. I appreciate Alan as well.
absolutely.
And we will see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.